The following podcast is scheduled for one fall. Introducing first, the ace that runs the place, Sam Tate. And his tag team partner, Raw is Warren.
Welcome back to another episode of your favorite wrestler's favorite wrestlers podcast, wrestling podcast, wrestler, favorite wrestler. We're back this week, and we have a little bit of an alteration. I know last week we talked about Sasha Banks and Kairi Sane, but really quick, I just wanted to mention that it's been very busy for both of us this week, and we wanted to both sit down and watch it together and give it its due time, and we never just actually got that time together to make that happen. And so instead of just trying to rush through it or put it on in the background, I figured it should be an important enough moment that we give it its shine.
Yeah, I think you're onto the right track there, Sam Tate. Warren Sprague here agreeing full-heartedly that we should just put some time aside to get together in the same room and take in this match. This, of course, being the Mercedes Moné first official match in NJPW, taking on Kairi Sane for the Women's Championship, newly established, essentially just for Mercedes Moné and Kairi Sane kind of talents, right? As they build a new legacy of women's wrestling internationally. And we want to give it its due time because it really could go down in history as the beginning of a revolutionizing, set of circumstances over in the Far East for women's wrestling. And it's a very special thing that could grow from that. So we're not going to half-ass it if we can.
I'm a little surprised that we haven't seen a shift from, or at least an attempt, I guess, at a larger scale in America to have like an all-female wrestling company. I know that there's like one or two smaller ones, but you know, they never really seem to stick around for too long or make too much of a splash since the wrestling craze of the late 80s and 90s and stuff. So it'd be interesting to see the way they do it in Japan, right? Where they have their own promotion. Like, I thought Evolution was cool. I'd like to see another all women's pay-per-view, and honestly, I might prefer it if there is an all women's show that is just women's wrestling and it's not compared side by side to men's wrestling segments.
Yeah, I'll yes and that for sure. I thought Evolution was extremely cool, and they made such a big deal out of it happening in the first place that I thought it was going to be impossible for the fans to not allow there to be another one, to just keep the momentum going, make this a yearly thing. If we can pigeonhole Hell in a Cell into a pay-per-view every year, we can let women be the stars of the show from beginning of the, pay-per-view to the end. There's more talent than ever in women's wrestling, especially, and of course, in the Americas. And I would not hold this roster on WWE and in AEW. I would not hold it against them to have their own show. I don't know what that means. What I'm trying to say is they would be great. There would be so much awesome wrestling to come from matchups from both sides of the field there in AEW and WWE, and watching some dream matches happen would be so much fun. So I think it's on us as fans. We have to be the ones to put our foot down and demand that, stuff like this doesn't take a step backwards. And it obviously has for about 3 or 4 years now.
Yeah, it would just be super cool because I think a big issue, I guess, is the perception. Because there's plenty of pay-per-views I've seen where there's two women's matches, women's, SmackDown Women's Championship and a Raw Women's Championship match on the same card are the two best matches of the night. And sometimes, I guess, the perception is that they're not as hard hitting, or whatever it is, it's not as good of a product, right? Whatever the excuse is. And I think like there's too many times where it has stood well just on its own, or it's been like surrounded by a sea of lousy male wrestling. And so if it was just by itself, if it had its own place and, like had its own speed and tone of a show and look and things like that, like I think they'd see a lot of success, but it would also mean breaking up the titles because you'd probably have to have only one title at that
All
one
right.
major title.
Well, I mean, doesn't Glow exist, right? The glorious or glamorous Ladies of Wrestling promotion that's a Netflix show or something.
Well, I think that
And
came back because of the Netflix show, right?
well, I mean, and more for that, right? Like, let's get more of that. Let's make sure the production value is on par with what the guys are getting, and kind of blow that up and turn that up to a 10, because I think that's exactly the kind of concept that would really help move women's wrestling forward into the next century here. But I mean, some places just having it on TV is such a milestone. You look at how they've handled the different ladies matches overseas in Saudi Arabia with the crown jewels and the greatest Royal Rumbles and yada, yada, yada. You know, it was just a few years ago that it was a big deal that for the first time ever, women were stepping in the ring to go at each other. I think Natalia and Lacey Evans, of all people, were the first two to compete in like Saudi Arabia. So that happened. Of course, Japan is evolving. It's slower internationally than we might realize, but here in the States, it's just another reason why we should be the trendsetters, right? And really push promotions starring women to the forefront if we want to be part of that change.
Yeah, I think it would be really neat. But that is really a discussion for the Sasha Banks episode, right? That is something that we can really deep dive in on and spend a bunch of time next week. But first, I think I want to give out just a little bit of trivia in the first section of the show. Are you ready for the weekly trivia question that I definitely didn't forget last week, Warren?
Oh my goodness. Bring it on. Trivia me.
All right. So, do you remember? Because I know you've seen it at least once, even if you don't remember this, because it takes the jogging of the memory sometimes. But what was the name of the Dudley Boys single from the WWE Originals CD?
Oh my God. You know, it's funny. We talked about this as we were revving up for the show. So it's so funny. I could probably just press Alt Tab on my computer right now and take me to the answer. But I'm not going to, because having the Dudley Boys sing anything just sounds like a mistake.
Oh, they just
Um,
shout. They just shout the whole time.
I'm just gonna say it's called "Bring It to the Table." How about that?
Ooh, okay. Not close, but not a bad guess. Uh,
Got wood? Question mark.
I'm surprised it wasn't that. It's called "We've Had Enough."
Okay,
It's
fine.
just a song where they say we've had enough about the what you woulda, coulda, shoulda done, and we're here to take you out. It's incredibly basic. They just shout the lyrics the whole time, and it's kind of amazing someone okayed this. And it's amazing I knew 4 grown adults who spent money on this in the year 2005.
Yeah, I was not one of them. That WWE Originals album
Or
was I wanted
2004, I guess.
I had a cross up against that, like it was gonna suck my blood if I bought it. No, thank you. I just remember the commercials with all of the superstars doing their best, and that's cute. Good for
Yeah.
them.
Don't get me wrong. As a 12-year-old, I probably bopped out to these for free. I'm still just surprised a grown man would drop $20 on this CD.
Mm,
But hey, that is the marketing genius of Vince McMahon. You just get Booker T to sing "Can You Dig It" like 10 times in
I,
2
I
minutes.
I do have a confession in relation to that trivia question, though, if you don't mind.
Oh yeah, go for it. Did you first make love to Lillian Garcia's "Call Me on the Phone"?
How'd you know? Like, it was too easy.
You seem like the type.
So I was on my way home about a week and a half ago, and I wanted to hear, sometimes I like to bring up wrestling theme songs on my way home to just kind of summarize how I feel about the day. And,
Uh,
I've listened to Shinsuke Nakamura's theme, one of my favorites, right? Or I'll find one of Bray Wyatt's 3 or 4 more memorable themes. But tonight, or that night in question, I wanted to hear of all tracks the Dudley Boys original theme that I was aware of back in 2000 that was before they added lyrics to the "We're coming down."
Yeah. I don't like that
Right.
version. I like the original. I like the one you like.
Right. I
Doom,
love
doom,
the one that's
doom, 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 like that.
that's right. The Spike
Yeah,
Dudley.
that shit's tight.
Spike Dudley ended up taking that, and the when the Dudley Boys moved on with their own version of it with the lyrics, and I just
Yeah.
always liked that track. So I literally found that on YouTube, and for no apparent reason was driving home all the way to that repetitive 3 or 4 riffs, right?
Yeah.
But it just goes to show, man, the power of theme music in pro wrestling is one of those things that I just cannot understate as a fan how important it is to somebody's presentation. I mean, anytime that those fireworks would sound, right? You just knew what you were in for. Mayhem was on the way. Remember when that music hit and Bubba Ray Dudley came back to the WWE in like 2008 at the Royal Rumble or whatever, and people just lost their shit.
Yeah.
It's the power of the fireworks sound. Like, I feel like that's the reason why so many other theme songs have those really loud, annoying noises at the beginning, because they're like, well, it worked for the Dudleys. It hasn't worked for very many others. I mean, look at the sirens from Cesaro or Dean Ambrose's music, for example. Like, those
Or
were...
Scott Steiner using the siren.
See, I didn't mind Scott's. There
No,
was
that
something...
shit was annoying as fuck.
Wait, really? I kind of liked the build up with the bass in the background, you know, kind of getting the song started. But then, yeah, as it went on, it would get more and more annoying. But at least the beginning was pretty cool. But
You can maybe get 2 wee woos out of me before I start hating probably any siren noise. Yeah. You get like maybe 2 go arounds. Like the Cesaro one's low key, and you know it's more like an ambulance. I think at least I associate it more with an ambulance sound. It might be the police siren for Switzerland, but I associate more with an ambulance sound. So I think that's funnier than like a police siren.
I think that's. I mean, I hated that Cesaro music. I think that wee woo one with the absolutely no melody whatsoever, just terrible. I mean, one of the reasons why he just could never get over the hump in the E, but mostly that was because, you know, one Mr. McMahon just didn't believe in what he could bring to the table. It's kind of interesting.
That siren would be perfect if he showed up and just beat everyone's ass and then left.
Well, I mean, yeah, he was such an unselfish guy, though. In the E, he always worked hard to help anybody look good en route to beating them. I've loved Cesaro since I saw him and Sami Zayn do that infamous 2 out of 3 falls match in NXT back in 2012 that really put over both guys for me. But Cesaro especially, you could just tell how unselfish he is, but also how much of an athletic freak he is. But anyway, I love a good theme song for sure.
So I'm going to hit you with the hottest take right off the bat. I'm just going to go straight for the jugular. I'm a man who doesn't fuck around, and I aim to misbehave. The hot take I have for you is I think the majority of theme songs are better without lyrics.
Ooh, okay.
Especially if you try to adapt one into an original song that is like vaguely reminiscent, but we added lyrics, always fails. Almost every wrestler who got lyrics from like, you know, transitioning from that Attitude Era to that Ruthless Aggression era, fail for me. When almost every time a wrestler gets new music, I think it's generally worse, and I don't know if that's because I just don't like new things or change.
I was going to say, yeah, change.
But at the same time, like, you can't tell me, like, as bad as basic Thugonomics is, Rapido is so much worse, bro. It's not a contest.
I enjoyed Basic Thuganomics actually looking back in time with that again, that slow build. That slow build is one of the things in a theme music in a theme song, excuse me, that I love the most. But of course when you said that with that hot take, I was starting to leaf through the different tracks in my mind, flipping through the channels, and of course Batista's um I Walk Alone by Saliva.
I hated I Walk Alone for the longest time. It's finally grown on me, just in the sense that like if you actually view Batista as like the type of character they wanted to portray, it fits really well. I was just not that big of a Batista fan.
Sure, it took me a while to really enjoy Batista as well. Outside of his incredible spine buster was definitely the move he pulled off better than anybody else. I loved his spine buster. Um, I had a hard time really gravitating towards him as well, but I did love the machine gun pattern to the pyro that he would hit.
The
At
pyro was tight.
the
The
pyro was
entrance was
tight.
good.
Yes, very, very good. One of the more memorable pyro ignitions in my mind.
Like I think people like the song because we're talking about the songs, right? Like I think people like the song because the entrance was fucking top notch. The entrance was like an 8.5, 9 out of 10 easy. And like the song itself is schmedium. It's a schmedium, it's a mid song, bro.
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, we can talk for a while, and maybe we should, about what makes a good wrestler's entrance, what makes a good wrestler's theme. We probably have differing opinions on this stuff, but I mean, I think any real wrestling fan understands the power of how a superstar enters the ring, and how they're presented as they walk out. It's pretty memorable and visceral and important and key to each individual persona because it could be a big part of what helps them stand out. So seeing even the smallest things that differentiate somebody's entrance from everybody else's is part of what builds the aura of a superstar, I think.
You
What
know
do you
what?
think? Go ahead.
I was gonna say, you know what stops Batista's entrance from being a 10 out of 10 for me?
Batista?
Yeah.
Yay! I got one right. A simple troll
Oh no,
comment.
no, I thought you were just clarifying Batista's.
Oh,
No, not
whoops.
Batista. I mean, obviously at some point, yes, because I just admitted that he
Yeah.
was not the biggest. Like, I missed all of his good stuff. I had to go back and watch it later, so like, it's not as imprinted on me, right? But
Right.
the thing that started killing it for me, I think it was after he got the title belt the second time or something. But at some point, especially at pay-per-views, he started to do this little walk left and right on the stage to play to the crowd. He would do this little trot, and like it just took way too
Kicking
long.
his
And
feet up, right?
huh?
Oh, where he'd like, he first he'd come out and he'd walk to the left side of the ring and smack his
Yeah,
chest, or the stage, I should say, and then he'd walk to the right side of the stage and smack his chest.
yeah.
Only a
Get a little
couple
suck
guys
it
really.
action going, whatever's going on, like and that like without that, like I think it's maybe a 10 out of 10. But I don't like any wrestling entrance where you go left and right unless you're a tag team and you can split up and do it at the same.
The first person who I ever saw do that, who still, in my opinion, pulls it off, is Edge. Edge does the left and right, and was the first guy I ever remember doing the left and right, look around at the audience thing. And
Trash.
you don't like that. Wow.
Trash. I don't like Metalingus and I don't like Edge doing that.
Okay.
I think
You
he had
know,
a way cooler entrance when he came in from the crowd.
well, sure.
See,
That's
most
usually
guys, their first entrance is their best entrance, and then they stop trying. They just do generic. This is what a wrestler would do. Shit.
I totally forgot that Edge and Christian would enter from the crowd with kazoos and big novelty hats and shit.
No, once they
Interesting.
started doing that shit, they stopped. Actually, I think once they started bringing props and doing the 5 second pose, I think they had finally stopped doing that.
Ah,
Yeah,
fair enough.
yeah.
Yeah. I didn't get to watch Edge and Christian in their heyday before the big breakup in 2001 because I wasn't allowed to start watching wrestling, if you remember, guys, until 2022 or 2002, I should say.
2022. No wonder you have such shit taste.
Yo, friends, I am exhausted. Like I'm building up to a move here in real life, and you know how you all know how stressful moving is. So, just be patient with me. I say the stupidest shit when I'm this tired. But
He also
circling,
cusses when he's tired. He doesn't cuss in any other.
oh, not true. There's definitely some pipe bombs in previous episodes, but you know, I wanted to circle back to your comment about Attitude Era guys getting lyrics to their theme songs that ruin things. And one
Yes.
superstar that comes out that I'm sure you're gonna shit on his his music that got lyrics was Kane's, who got Finger 11
No, that
doing.
shit slaps. That's one of the
I
best of all time.
Thank you.
It's
Okay.
actually might be the exception to the rule, but I wouldn't even consider. I don't know if I would consider that like vaguely reminiscent of his original, but that is actually one of the best themes of all time.
You're full of shit. It's totally reminiscent of the original. I mean, the pyro hits
I
and
thought Kane's original music was very ministry.
and then they start the lyrics, right? So, like, you
Yeah.
get the whole primary riff, and the Finger
is it?
11 guy's got a great voice. I don't remember. I'm
I
not
thought
gonna
they
look
just
up his
played
name.
like the same intro and then just jam into the Finger 11 song, and it's like totally different from. I'd have to listen to them side by side. Every time Kane's music comes up, it's Slow Chemical, bro.
I'm with you. That's such that was his best theme, and I was bummed when he went backwards.
I will stick up for early like Undertaker and Kane like twinkly music. I think the twinkly stuff that people hate, I think that shit's totally fine and fits the characters. But yeah, Slow Chemical is a banger.
We simply must discuss for a few moments all of the hits and misses in Undertaker's catalog of theme songs.
Oh.
I mean, you talk about an entrance, friends. Can you think of any entrance that means more to a superstar than the Undertaker's? I mean, I sure we can go on a tangent listing names like Bray Wyatt or Chris Jericho or ABC, 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 but Undertaker's entrance is the most important thing to that character, and I dare anybody to fight me on it.
I don't know if
His
yeah, after a while, yeah. The entrance almost became the character after a while because he really stopped doing Undertaker-y shit.
right.
Like,
that's right.
I just recently I'm in a weird place because I'm watching the part of I just watched the episode of Raw recently where Midian gets like resurrected, I think, from the dead, or he stops having his old name, he becomes Midian, and they do like a full on sacrificial altar, smoke, lightning strikes. He's literally cutting him and bleeding, and he's drinking blood from the goblet, and he's got blood on his chest, and he's using the knife and doing the whole shebang live in front of everybody. And it's, in the middle of a wrestling show with literally no context except a commercial on either side of it. So they can set all this shit up and take it down.
And 1997 can you get?
Like, I fucking love all that shit because it builds the character. He's like, he's got a whole, it's pre-recorded. I think they're acting like he's talking, but you can hear it through the whole speakers and like he's pre-recorded. But he's got like a whole spiel going on. And the whole time I'm sitting there and I'm like, damn, it's amazing Bray Wyatt can't get 1/10 of this.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing. Like he's explaining like the downfall of man and like I'm going to raise everyone's corpses and what I'm here to do. And it's got nothing to do with pro wrestling, but like it's giving the character a clear goal. And he's literally creating a minion. Like he's creating a new addition to his forces, to his stable. Like, I mean, granted, it's fucking Midian, but something.
You have a really good point. Yeah, that is a lot of concrete building to that persona in a way that we often complain Bray Wyatt doesn't accomplish because it's all just kind of abstract and random and unstructured for sure. Oh,
like this was super random, but it was very structured. So
interesting. Sure. I mean, I recall the Ministry of Darkness days only from watching, you know, photos and videos after the fact, going back in time and
Me
appreciating
too.
it.
I did not watch. Even if I did, I'd be 6 years old or something. Like, yeah, I had to watch this like when the network first came out is when I started watching stuff like this.
Sure, to catch up on all the stuff you missed and how fun it would have been for me to watch the whole progression of the Ministry and see the APA break off and become, fun-loving, beer-swilling guys for how much I enjoy those characters. And I would have loved to really watch the transformation of The Undertaker, even though, of course, he just kind of melted away near the end of the Ministry. And then when he resurfaces at that infamous Judgment Day 2000, right? Isn't it Judgment Day
Yeah, the
2000?
very first pay-per-view I ever got to watch.
Oh, right.
Yeah, Ministry is right before I started having wrestling memory.
Wow.
It's
And what a
right on the
fun,
cusp.
it's an important blind spot to have if you understand, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
for how important many of those characters would go on to be for wrestling lore, but most especially The Undertaker. That was the last heyday of the original Dead Man version before the foray into American Badass status, all the way up until 2004 when we obviously see him return to his roots. But that Badass Undertaker guy had so many fantastic themes. You don't you don't need
Ah,
me to spend 5 minutes on Rollin'. We all know Limp Bizkit's Rollin' was the best of them all, but he
Jesus.
had he had
I constantly bring up to like non-wrestling fans whenever people like first find out about like the badass Undertaker gimmick, or just basically the first time it comes up in conversation. It's always amazing to me that the Undertaker got people to stand up and cheer for Limp Bizkit music.
well, it was catchy as shit and
Uh,
super fun to hear it while he's rolling down with his motorcycle, dude. Like it was so different, right? It was so different from the original Undertaker, yet so cool and refreshing and palate cleansing because we're seeing a more realistic and obviously more relatable side of the Undertaker, especially for the performer himself. Like that was just him turned up to 11, and it gave birth to some really cool presentations for him.
and
I
then he goes back to back with convincing people to stand up and cheer for Kid Rock, which, I mean, I guess if you told me it's wrestling fans, it's not that surprising, but holy fuck, dude.
I literally could not remember that it was Kid Rock. Kept sitting here thinking, who was the other theme? The other licensed artist that they got? Yes, Kid Rock, and he did Cowboy or whatever, right? Or
American
he did a
Badass.
couple. He did a couple for him. Yeah, he really did. He did a couple for him. Undertaker was that was the first time I remember licensed music making it into a superstar's entrance. Now that I think about it, and you can let me know if I'm forgetting anybody earlier than that who had an outside
Is
artist.
Pomp and Circumstance public domain?
I mean, yeah, I'm gonna say that was.
That one might be public domain. Okay, then yeah.
But I never thought of Pomp and Circumstance and tied it to Randy Savage. Honestly, until I got a little older and started doing my homework. Of course, Pomp and Circumstance is much more connected to graduations for me. But I mean, what a random tune to have, right, as your theme track.
It's very well known and recognizable. I don't know if I've ever heard Randy talk about that choice, actually. That would be something good to do some research on a Macho Man deep dive, is find out where the choice to use Pomp and Circumstance came from.
That would be fun. I can only imagine where that decision may have popped up. You see a couple other superstars in wrestling past use very classic pieces of music too, like Daniel Bryan uses Flight of the Valkyries, which, why? And there's Jerry the King Lawler's theme music. If you never really paid attention, folks, is a pretty well-known organ theme that's made it through decades of use. Um, it's interesting, and I'd love to make a list of all these different themes that make a whole lot of sense versus which ones that don't. But we never really talked about what makes a theme music good for you. Like, what makes a good track in your mind for a wrestler?
Oh, I'm gonna actually you. It's Ride of the Valkyries, not Flight of the Valkyries.
That
Uh,
makes much more sense anyway, so that's fine. You can actually the shit out of that.
which I don't even think that's like an official name, by the way. I remember getting to an argument with someone about this, and I think it's like not even actually the name. It's just like anyways. Um, what was the question again that was on topic?
What makes a good wrestling theme for you, Sam? Just straight up.
What makes a good wrestling theme for me is I gotta be excited to hear it. It has to fit the character. And most importantly, it has to fit the actual entrance. That one's usually not too tough because they plan all that stuff ahead together. And I can like all kinds of different themes. Like, it's not about like genre of music to me. And I do not care if it's a good song by itself. I just like to make that distinction, right? Because like I said, with Batista, I Walk Alone fits everything about the entrance, it fits the animal, Batista, like all that works. But I would not listen to it like on my playlist by itself. Um can I tell
I
you
did.
what I think the actual perfect entrance theme for a character is? Like my top actually like best theme music for a specific wrestler.
Yeah, I don't know why not. I think all of us would like to hear what stands out to you as like the epitome of the blend between character and theme track.
It's actually the Hardy Boys' first like team entrance, like post Brood,
Boot, boot, boot.
just the classic. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just that the thumping bass, and then I wish I could remember the name. I actually used to have this. That's a song I actually used to have on my high school playlist. I think it's actually public domain too.
Yeah, of course. Jeff Hardy went on and used that for pretty much his whole WWE career, give or take a couple of notable swerves away from it. But of course, that's a great track, and it is pretty public domain. I've seen it pop up on various reality shows, and or maybe that was just I saw it. I heard it a lot on Ink Master, and then I realized, oh, Jeff Hardy appeared on that season of Ink Master and got a tattoo from one of the artists.
Nice. Yeah, I think it's called Loaded, but I don't remember specifically. That might be like their newest updated, like WWE decided to add a little bitty ting Vanilla Ice style to make it their own. But that song I thought fit that team so perfectly. It fit their entrance. Like it's low key. It doesn't have to be like super fancy. It doesn't have to sound like an already, popular song. It doesn't need lyrics. It's just, a couple goofballs are going to come to the ring and do some fucked up shit, and let's get lit.
That's a great theme to choose. It definitely is super memorable. How about that entrance? Of course, we all know what I'm building up for at WrestleMania when the New Day announced that the Hardys were going to be entering the ladder match, and out they come, hitting that music.
Yeah.
Crowd lost their shit. One of the biggest pops I think you're going to find if you go looking through the history books there. I loved that night. I love that moment. I love that theme. It's a good choice from you.
Yeah,
Um,
to this day, it stands the test of time, in my opinion. It still slaps as an entry.
sure. I'm totally with you. I can think of a couple that I've loved over the years, but that's one of the best. I loved Chris Jericho's longtime theme, "Break the Walls Down." Oh,
Ooh.
that thing was perfect. Of course, I loved, delayed turnaround Jericho at the entrance ramp. Um,
Delayed turnaround.
yeah, the wireframe pattern Jericho.
It's called
Um,
presentation, baby.
oh, it was so good. I'm not gonna talk shit about it at all. I mean, that whole track and for how long it gave him like immediate recognition. That one's got to be up there on my list of favorites. especially his debut version, where it takes a second to get to the point that we all know and love, and there's like the slow stutter step walk kind of tone to the rhythm where it's like, but I can't do it. I can't even
Do
imitate
you
it.
do you know the story about like the original version of that?
No, please enlighten
So
us.
this is something I learned kind of recently, and it's kind of weird you brought up Jericho so early. Is it showed up on my fucking YouTube feed and I can't find it again. It's very weird. It's kind of hard to find, but it did just randomly pop up on YouTube, but I can't find it like searching it again. But the very, very first recording was done by a Rage Against the Machine cover band, and they flew out and their microphone broke apparently on the flight. And as they're singing it, the very first version that they debuted him with, the song starts to like echo really bad, and you can hear the singer complain about it on the track like very faintly. And like 2 minutes or with like 30 seconds left in the song, it's getting so bad you can't understand the lyrics at all. The whole recording is like meshing together in like this scratchy kind of way, and you can finally hear the singer just go, "Oh fuck it," and they just play like the last 30 seconds of the song, and there's like no lyrics, and it gives it like this ominous dystopian post Y2K vibe. It's actually fucking phenomenal.
Wow, I might have to look that up.
Good luck. I can't find it again.
Shit, that's really too bad because that sounds like it would have been an experience to take in a little bit. And a great brushstroke for that character, the whole Y2K character, or Y2J, of course. But yeah, that theme comes to mind, that whole entrance, that whole presentation. I mean, you remember when I would make created wrestlers for at least 10 years after that, they would all have Chris Jericho's delayed turnaround
So
that
did
had to
I.
be in there.
So did mine.
Oh, I love that. I
I do
mean,
that in person, actually. I go to like card game events, and if someone calls my name from behind me, I'll actually just do that.
absolutely.
I'll
I
just
can't tell you.
actually no one has ever like called it out either. No one has ever recognized it.
That's sad. I can't believe that. I feel like I've pulled that off in 3 or 4 different improv shows over my time, getting called out on stage to do some improv, and
Oh,
I hit that slow turnaround. People dig it, man. And
I've
I've get
definitely done that. I think I did that when I refereed a show.
fun.
I think
Hey,
that's the show I dropped you. My mom talks about it a lot. You jumped into my arms and I just didn't know you were going to do that. And I just didn't catch you.
classic.
Yeah.
Classic fun. Oh, just like a real wrestling match. You wouldn't catch me. No way.
Exactly.
You
So,
just walk away. You'd Samoa Joe that shit.
yeah, I
Dude,
think for the referee intro, I think I hit the Jericho slow turn. I used to call it the turn and pump because he does the elbow pump with the kick.
oh
I
yeah,
used to
he
call it the
does.
turn
He
and
sure
pump.
does. The fist pump for sure.
Yeah.
It's funny. We just drizzled right by another superstar who's had a lot of memorable themes, and it already left my brain. That's how tired I am. That's
Oh,
such a
Big Papa
bummer.
Pump. Yeah, we're talking about the pump. The big bad booty daddy
Booty
is your
Daddy.
hookup.
Oh man. I can't sit here and get too caught up on that. They used to come out to the Michigan State University march song, much like
Yeah.
how Oklahoma Sooner march would call out Jim Ross, right? Or bring out Jim Ross. Those were weird. I don't want to hear college tunes, right? I don't want to hear marching band shit. That's strange.
I mean, yeah, it. They used to also wear their Michigan University wrestling singlets, so that also like adds to the presentation and kind of works. But
They're the only ones who ever did that too. They're the only ones who ever came out wearing their school stuff outside of Chris Nowinski for his brief Harvard highlights, right?
I was gonna say there's been plenty of guys who used to do it actually.
Oh, give me more examples. Help me out.
I don't know off the top of my head because not everyone was like a star back then, and this is like pre my era, right? But like it wasn't super uncommon at your local armory show for a guy who was known as a college wrestler to also be in the pro wrestling show. and wear like singlets that make it look legit.
Well, I
You know,
believe
I'm
that.
talking like old kayfabe. You know, like they're trying to really kayfabe it with real wrestlers who wrestle on the side and wear real wrestling gear.
Sure.
Like
Okay.
this is a time where wrestling in jeans would be considered gauche.
I see.
You know,
Okay.
wrestling in tights makes you a pretty boy. You know, like the flare trunks, like that makes you a show off because you're not wearing wrestling
I see.
gear.
Okay.
I don't know how many people were branding their college on it, I guess, but like for a while in TNA, Kurt Angle used to wear the full on headgear. He had like a
Well,
full, he had like
and
a full run. What?
he did it in WWE too when he was trying to cover his wig up, right? He wore the
Yeah,
goofy headgear for a little while.
yeah, that was a gimmick. Yeah, he had it like as part of his full on costume. I'm pretty sure at some point for TNA because he was doing his I'm the realest wrestler type shit.
That was a good era of Angle, even though he really shouldn't have been wrestling at that time. But we're probably getting away from the soul of what we want to be talking about a little bit.
Hey, you know who's got a great entrance?
The
Kurt
Godfather.
motherfucking Angle. You suck.
Yes,
You
you
suck.
suck. Absolutely mandatory. The one of the first entrances to so obviously require the fans' endorsement to really pull off. Which is funny because that theme song that was a recycled theme. Did you know that?
Um,
Da da
I,
da 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 da
I
da.
feel like I
Bo.
did, but is it not the theme to the Nickelodeon show Guts?
It's definitely not the theme to Nickelodeon Guts, but I would
Okay.
want to look it up just to see how close those could be.
They're
Kurt
probably
Angle's
not close. It just seems like the kind of thing because Guts would have the kids with like their nation's flag and they would wear. I used to in my head always flip through and think it's a wrestling thing because they're wearing singlets and they're like on a track and stuff, and it was never a wrestling thing. But yeah.
uh-huh. I I remember Kurt's theme was used by the Patriot, I believe was the guy's name. And
When Hulk Hogan was pretending, or different guy.
right, no, that was Mr. America. The song was called Medal, Medal.
Right, which is why it's perfect for a real Olympic gold medalist.
Kurt Angle, the Patriot. Yeah, and I think the Patriot was actually Tony Atlas, if I'm not stupid mistaken, but I could be. I'd have to look that up, but they had tried it like 10 years ago, and it didn't have the same obvious oomph that Kurt Angle's character brought to it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but oh, that was a great theme. You're totally right. Especially my favorite part was the bridge, I guess, or the change of the music where the horns are in the background doing the whole do 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 do, right? And they're like da 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 da. Anyway, I'm moving on. We don't need to
I think the
bigger.
pyro helps with that song a lot. It hits right on the pyro.
True. Yeah. Dude, songs that have the pyro ready to go somewhere in there with the cue are so much fun. You know, going back to I Walk Alone or Edge's current one that's been around for a nice hot minute. Um those have great breaks for that pyro, and they're finding the right moment is always exciting to bring that in. But don't get me started on pyro, right? There have been some
Well,
really interesting uses of pyro over the
when
years.
it comes to theme songs, talking the whole entrance is natural, right? Because you know who's got a very underrated. Like once you mention him, no one will act like he was an underrated entrance. You know, people will say that like if you say it, people will get upset and act like he's always on the map. But no one else seems to bring him up very often. But you know who had great pyro and a great entrance and a great theme song, but very like
Hmm.
maybe in a low key way.
Oh man, give it to me. What's the triple threat?
Rob Van
Yes.
Dam,
Yo.
the pop.
100 absolutely. Just the ramp up for the music. That's huge for me. I guess I asked you earlier what makes a good theme. I need a really cool intro to the song. And yeah, Rob Van Dam's slow burn. One of a kind. Right.
Yeah,
And then
the one
there's
of a
your,
kind pop,
oh,
and then the
yes.
song is pretty good by itself,
Hell
I
yeah.
think.
Hey. hey, it's just fun to chant to. Like, oh, Rob Van Dam truly forever will be one of the most underrated wrestling identities ever. Like,
Right,
totally
that's how I feel.
he should have been, yeah, he's so unique and should have totally been megastar status. And honestly was just so cool and counterculture that he still achieved a very specific type of infamy and fame and
Yeah, he did.
superstardom. Hell yeah.
Post wrestling, he's a lot of people's goals.
eh, by the way, I'll go ahead and say I don't want to disrespect the fallen. Del Wilkes. Del Wilkes was the name of the Patriot who got to use Kurt Angle's track first, and Wilkes passed away in 2021 at the age of only 40. So I don't want to accidentally steamroll him, claiming that he's Tony Atlas and have his name not get shouted out, but he was the first to benefit from that awesome track that would be Kurt Angle's for the rest of our memory.
Oh, okay.
Booker T's, can you dig it, sucker?
Booker T's is pretty good. I don't think I'm like super sold on it being like top 10, but it was definitely a very unique and very good entrance.
Gold Dust with
I think
the
his
Shattered
pyro,
Dreams.
I don't think Booker T's earned the pyro though.
What?
Yeah,
Dude, his pyro was so memorable because
the
flames were dope. I remember his entrance with the flames in the background, like blackening his silhouette, if that makes sense. That was such a cool look that no other superstar got to have in their entrance. Not even Kane, really.
You just like it because you used it for your creator wrestlers.
Well,
because you got fire everywhere. You're just like Kane fire, Booker T fire, whatever pyro Shane McMahon is using this week. We'll put a flaming casket at ringside.
Oh, yeah, okay. So what you're trolling right now that I'll let in on the listeners is, yes, my pro wrestlers would have these ridiculous over the top, my created wrestlers, excuse me.
Flame background, flame Titantron.
Flame archways, thank you. My favorite was the flame archways down the whole
Druids holding torches to light the archway.
I never did the Druids. I have a thing about hooded figures. Like, that is automatic piss my pants status for me. So I wasn't down for like walking by
now
Druids.
I know how to fuck with you this Halloween.
Dude, your big ass 6'5" frame or whatever with a hood over it. No, thank you.
Bro, I love hooded figures. It's one of my favorite aesthetics.
Well,
that's why I love the Ministry of Darkness so much. I think the Druids with the torches sells it for me.
You took it right out of my mouth.
Take her without the Druids, like that shit doesn't slap.
That's the opposite of slap. That's like gentle rub across the face.
I look really good with a hood too. Like you get the full shebang going where you can't see anything except maybe my hands and then my beard sticking out. It's a look, bro.
Yeah, well, at least I'd know. What I don't like about hooded figures especially is like not knowing any of the features of the person underneath. So your beard would be a giveaway at least.
Damn.
Sorry.
I gotta learn to tuck.
You gotta tuck. You gotta hide it. Gotta shave it off. Don't do it. Please don't shave it off. Let's see. One of my favorite themes that has no reason to be on this list except for my love for the superstar was, of course, the APA's theme, as simple as it was. I just like the dirt. It's
very Dudley Boys, but yeah, I'm here for it.
It was just simple, and it pretty much drove home exactly what these guys were. Just rough and tumble, beat your friggin' ass and go kind of dudes.
It's a little siren-esque, a little police siren-y.
Yeah.
A little bit of a wee-woo.
Good distortion in the guitar. It's one of the most like repetitive themes, but I think the best themes really are catchy enough and repetitive enough that you just remember snippets of it that get stuck in your head. Like Austin's, of course, is another one that you'll just always remember. Dun 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 dun. Like you don't need anything more than that. Dun 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 dun. That's it.
it's always interesting when like superstars have multiple themes, but they eventually go back to an original theme. They go back to a previous theme to like fit the iconic version of their character. And The Rock is definitely, or not The Rock, sorry, Stone Cold Steve Austin is definitely in that character, and I think The Rock should be too.
Well, I mean, The Rock's original theme really just stood by him his whole like career, and it just kept getting more and more production into it. But
Yeah,
another,
the
yeah,
stupid Hollywood helicopter shit that they've reused for like the stock footage that they've reused for The Miz and like three other people. That shit's not it.
I hate that I remember that too, that they really literally used the exact same footage in the Miz's theme song at one point.
And now they just go quiet on the set instead of like ominous like build up music for The Rock where you're just waiting for it to go, if you smell.
It's cooking. Burn, burn,
That shit
burn,
sucks.
burn. I like the slower version
I
personally.
can't really hate on the if you smell, like to start it off,
Oh.
like because that's great run-in music. That's something that nobody talks enough about. Is your entrance music good enough for you to do a run-in?
Ooh, right? Sure. Very true. Very true. Is it pop worthy for that? I mean, you got glass breaking, check. You've got the slow ramp is bad sometimes in those situations because yeah, the surprise of them running down and doing their thing, you just want something that hits quick.
You
Like
gotta
the
have like a good spot for it to start at. Like it's okay to have a slow build if when you're doing a run-in it can just cut straight to the break the walls, like
yes,
there's a spot
exactly.
for it.
Yup, I'm with you. Somebody's entrance I wanted to talk about tonight because I felt like it was one of the biggest productions for a superstar who wasn't really treated on that same level. What about 2002 era Christian with
Oh.
the choir boys, the choir in the background doing Christian?
Unless you're on your own. That one.
And then yeah,
I liked it better with kazoos, and I don't like the switch up. If you're gonna do the choir, at least you're on your own thing. Hit me with like some dope choir music. Don't hit me with the fucking like basic bitch. Jim Johnston just took a shit and hammered this out. Like, come on.
I love the pyro though. That's what I brought it up for was the raining
The
pyro.
Randy Orton pyro.
Right, but he got
Randy
it
stole
first.
that, bro.
Yes, Randy stole the shit out of that.
That's his pyro now. I used to clown on because we've talked about this in the past on this podcast where like Randy Orton's face turn just never resonated with me, and it really made me lose a lot of respect for wrestling fans that I knew. And I used to clown on people. I'm like, you're cheering for a guy who has Christian's hand me down. He has
There is
Christian's
that.
sloppy seconds, bro. That's your guy. That's your world champ. That's not my world champ.
I think Christian's so perennially underrated for what he's given to the wrestling business, and I know you'll agree, pound for pound, in the same way like Matt
What?
Hardy has it can be
Huh?
considered underrated.
I
What's
think
that?
he's been treated. I think they've both been treated pretty good, actually.
Both Matt and
Yeah, I
Christian.
think they've been treated kind of fine as like the brother of the good one.
You could argue in different ways that they've surpassed the other one, at least with Matt. I feel like Matt's done more with his reinventions of himself than Jeff has done, because Jeff has just had to do the same shit over and over again for 20 years. But
Spoken like someone who didn't watch a single minute of TNA.
well, and you've talked about that's where Jeff did his best stuff, but that's also where Jeff walked out completely drugged
Also,
out
where
of his
Jeff did
mind.
his worst stuff, and I just I only I don't take issue with the quality assessment so much as just he did do a bunch of different things, man. He was main event Jeff Hardy with Hulk Hogan by his side. He was a fucking Hulkster at one point. Like they did a bunch of different shit. Like his character evolution was not always just a face painted guy who jumps off top rope. Like
Well, and
it was
that's
usually a
what he was.
miss, but it wasn't always the same.
It's what he was in the E, and it's true. I probably missed some of the more interesting stuff of his career by not seeing more of the Impact work. But I mean, while we're hung up on Matt Hardy, his the Team Extreme theme that got used by Lita and him and version 1 Matt Hardy. Oh yeah.
The Mattitude adjustment.
Yeah. That theme song was also pretty good back in the day, if you ask me.
The I Can Slap a Tornado. That shit was so over the top.
Right. And it's perfect for Matt and how much he, overloved himself, overvalued himself.
I think that they really, man, if you could go back in time, I think that character is actually main event worthy. Matt Hardy V1, that's better than anything The Miz has ever done in his whole fucking career.
Well, I mean, The Miz is catching all your shit right now, and Miz is another person who's been able to be the same guy for 20 years. So, in a way, I get why you control, but at the same time, Miz has done a really good job with it. I mean, it's the same kind of character that Ric Flair got over or that MJF gets over today. I mean, you could shit on The Miz all you want, but that's literally what you're supposed to do. That's what the character encourages you to do. I mean, so
I'm on a reality show. I'm married to Maurice.
I mean, it's not a gimmick. It's just
My
Miz
wife
turned
is
up.
French.
He likes what he likes, buddy. We
Yeah,
all
it's
enjoy
why
some escargot.
I'm just saying, bro. Matt Hardy, like maybe if you don't like Matt, you don't like his acting skills, his promos, his wrestling, whatever. Like, there's legitimate bones to pick. I'm not saying Matt Hardy necessarily is or was a main eventer, but that character at that time, the Matt Hardy facts, the inspirationals, he was legitimately ahead of his time, for better or for worse. Maybe it's something that, like, the way the wrestling business works, it sucks that he couldn't, like, gift that character to someone who could have really ran with it, taken it to better heights. But I think Matt Hardy could have potentially taken that to a main event given the right tools, given the right circumstances, because that's also, I mean, there's also just so much that happened shortly after that where he didn't even work with WWE for a while.
Right. Absolutely. And he did the whole Angelic Diablo stuff online when he was, pissed off about the Lita and Adam Copeland, affair. And then, yeah. I
That
mean,
shit was all bad.
Matt is one of the wrestlers who I think has reinvented himself almost as many times as like a Chris Jericho has. And he deserves more credit for that. I mean, look at the broken stuff he did. The broken stuff changed everything.
The one thing that that makes me not want to really compare the two at all is Jericho's made it a point to not really revisit the same character ever again. He's done maybe a callback or two, but he's never been the same character again. Matt Hardy's done the Woken stuff a couple different times, and Broken Matt Hardy, you might say, is supposed to be something different, and he had a different vision for it, but it really came off as just doing the Woken Matt Hardy under a legally owned by WWE way and shit. So, he's definitely done it a couple times, but some of them are something I would not give him any credit for. Like Big Money Matt, fuck you. No, Matt Hardy's fucking managerial services. He's got a bunch of money, and it's the lamest excuse for him to have his own stable.
That's a rough turn for him. Yeah, he was actually a pretty hyped free agent getting into AEW at that time, and people were excited. And he did the whole broken Flash Woken or whatever thing for like 3 weeks, and then Big Money matted, and
then they
hasn't been the same since.
Then they did the stadium brawl where he got to dunk people in the pool of reincarnation.
Oh yes, the pool of reincarnation.
I think Matt takes it to an 11 every time, but it's not always in the right place. And I want to give him credit for going places with his characters, but this is more about the themes, right?
It's true. We will circle back. We probably have more talk on Jeff and Matt Hardy interspersed throughout our podcast episodes than and Chris Jericho than any other characters in wrestling. So we're sorry we get caught up on them and it's so easy to.
Well, it
But
is the best wrestler of all time, and brother.
let's go back to a theme that was brought back recently.
Damn, I thought you would take that bait.
I will. Let's go back to a theme that was brought back recently that people celebrated, and that was Sami Zayn's return of his face theme, right? I forget what it's called. Doesn't
Let's
matter.
go.
You all know it.
That's all it's known as. It's known as
Let's go.
Let's go.
Yep. Hey, but it's catchy and it's fun, and I love that track. I actually really love that track. So I have no qualms saying that it's nice to have it back. And look at what it's done for people. I mean, at least on that evening in Montreal, of course, it was nostalgic, but at the same time, it was, the hometown hero. And, I bet a lot of people are just happy to see that version of Sammy suggested to be back with that song returning instead of his strange off kilter, goose step theme that he had for a bit. I don't
think I like that one better.
Where he preens like a freaking peacock.
He's back to being a what?
He preens like a freaking peacock, right? He's like jutting his head forward while he's walking, and he's weird. I don't know.
When he was
kind of like how Seth Rollins does it these days.
Right, when he was doing the conspiracy theorist type stuff, and when he was really doing the first start of his really good stuff as a heel, and I really dug that one. The Let's Go it's fine. It's a really good theme. I'm sure it's better in person, and it ticks all the boxes. It's just not not super iconic to me.
Oh, well, I mean, it doesn't go too many places musically. It does kind of have one sound to it, but you can argue Kurt Angle's does too. As an example of some, but
Sami Zayn doesn't have pyro or people chanting "you suck," and it doesn't make me think of the Olympic gold medal ceremony where they put you on a podium and shit.
No, it's really remarkable how well the song Metal, captures that feeling and that look of Kurt Angle. It's the perfect melting pot of circumstances with that one. And yeah, maybe Sammy's doesn't feel quite so in tune with who we know him to be as a character. This international journeyman who's been to more countries than the majority of the roster in his career. You don't think of him as like a ska character, for example, but it's just the way the sound of the song goes. It's fun and it's playful and it is engaging with the Let's Go. And
I just need one pick it up, somewhere in a bridge. Need one of those.
It needs one more tint to the music, I suppose. But then again, I'm the guy who likes the APA's music, which is 60 seconds on a loop. So
a big thing about the APA's music, I was going to mention this earlier, but there is something to be said when you talk about repetitive music from a long time ago. Entrances in general were a bit shorter and people didn't milk it as often, and so the APA were guys who didn't stop on the ramp at all, and half the time were showing up to beat your ass, not even during a match. So they were running out there to hit the ring hot. So that shit works really well when you're a no-nonsense, go-to-the-ring, start the fight kind of entrance. If you're going to be goofy, clowning around, running to each side of the stage to gesture to the crowd, you got to have a little more wrinkles to it.
I think you have an excellent point there.
That's what worked for the Dudley Boys and really the Hardy Boys. The Hardy Boys got to stop on the ramp and pose because, tag team, also Lita and shit. But when it came down to it, the Dudley Boys and the Hardy Boys were usually running to the ring to get the crowd fucking hyped up, to get things started. They were curtain jerkers a lot of the time, and they were the young, high energy teams. That shit fits really well. Now that Sami Zayn is a milquetoast, bland baby face with absolutely no character and only has support because it's his hometown, really. Like, that music fits for him.
I'm gonna say his character is that he's lovable, and that was always the case, and he's resilient and all that crap.
Oh,
But
he's finally lovable because he turned on Roman, so now he's no longer a conspiracy theorist. Okay.
well, I would love if that wrinkle in his character continued anyway. But
He went
it's
from
all
being like a cunning strategist to I gotta believe. I gotta believe in myself. The power of friendship. I'm in my hometown, and my family's here, and blood is thicker than the water of the bloodline.
okay. You sound what a weird interpretation. You sound like a Canadian Bill Cosby for a second.
I mean, kinda. It's that's how I imagine the guy writing this shit in a WWE office sounds. Do they not? They just don't pay attention to weekly shit. Like they just redo it all every week and forget everything they did before.
You remember Edge had a Rob Zombie song for a while?
Yeah, never gonna stop me.
Never gonna stop me, never gonna stop. That was a good one. I was kind of bummed when he got rid of that one because it had a great lead in for his entrance, right? And that's when he got to have the smoke incorporated, right? And it would take a second
Yeah.
for him to come out, and it has that cool little guitar riff at the beginning, and it just kind of twinkles along for a second, and then it hits you in the nose. That was maybe my favorite Edge theme. And one of my favorite licensed pieces of music to be used, actually, now that I think about it, outside of Roland, of course, but or CM Punk finally getting Cult of Personality. Remember when that first hit over the
Ooh.
speakers when he returned with the title after he supposedly left with it in 2011? And Cult of Personality starts, and you're like, well, what the hell's going on, right? We didn't know that as his theme at the time.
That was
And
one of the first events we watched together. I'm pretty sure.
yeah, we were like, "What is this shit?" And I'm like, "It's got to be Punk. Who else? Who else would debut a track like that? After returning to the E, quote unquote, with the belt in hand." I loved his use of Cult of Personality. Can you think of any superstars who never got licensed music that you think should have?
I don't know. I'm kind of weird on the licensed music because it's kind of wild how good Cult of Personality fit. And I felt like Kill Switch Engage's theme for Punk didn't fit very well, but a lot of people really like it. And
Yeah, I was not a fan of Kill Switch Engage's theme. I didn't even realize that was them or that I was supposed to care about it. It was just it's a little chaotic for me. It's not my style of music, though.
yeah, it's kind of wild that Punk had licensed music like the whole time.
That's a good
Almost.
point. Yeah, it's a really good point, actually.
Maybe he got maybe I don't know. Maybe he met the band. Maybe they got a personal favor. It wasn't just yeah. There's very few times where I feel like licensed music really fits with the theme, especially when it's like, it's not like they went and got a band to like make this theme. It's like the band put out a song and they're like, wow, this would be perfect. So there's nothing really that comes to mind.
Okay, just curious. What do you think of Ronda Rousey getting bad reputation by Joan Jett?
Low hanging fruit.
Right. I can understand why you say that. It just seems such an obvious choice in a way, but
Also, it doesn't fit her at all. She comes out to the ring slow and mean mugging people. Like,
nowadays she does. Yeah, it's
she
true.
doesn't come out all jittery and in your face. Like, I would expect a Ruby Riott to have something like that.
Well, Ruby
a Shotzi
Soho
Blackheart would make great use of that, probably.
Okay. Got it. Yeah. That would be
And no,
fun.
Ruby Soho is not a great theme song, before you ask.
Aw, come on.
No, that's one of the wildest things. Like, it's so... Ruby Riott in AEW is the single, like, most demystifying character of the entire existence of AEW. Like, it's its own... That's its own podcast, but If you want to know every single thing you need to know about AEW, just watch the one stretch of Ruby Riott debuting.
Okay, well, that is truly its own topic, so I'm not gonna try to trip over that bait and just keep trying to move forward, I
It's a good
suppose.
song. It has the name Ruby in it, and then they made a character name based around that, and none of it fits.
See, now that seems like low-hanging fruit.
Yes, that's the point. It's low hanging fruit. That's why I
Ah,
named them together.
how about Shinsuke Nakamura's theme? I referenced it earlier, but I love
Oh,
that one. That one's so much fun, especially how it can be so obviously enhanced by live performance.
yeah. So that's one of the few live performances that really hits the spot for me.
Right.
But it turns out I have a personal bias for the violin. So
I believe you, especially in pro wrestling. It has this weird feeling of sophistication, right? Watching somebody play a violin, it's like a sort of an out of place thing in the wrestling world. So the fact that it's used so freaking effectively in Shinsuke's work, it's what helps him stand out on a totally different level for me in many ways. Is his whole presentation as he walks down to the ring and how that song just pops off so many different ways.
yeah, way better than fucking Boogs playing the guitar. That shit sucked. Give me the dude playing the violin. That shit slaps.
It's true. It just adds it's a totally different texture and it's totally appropriate for Shinsuke. It's probably why he was able to remain as over as he was through everything, honestly. And is, I should say.
Right. It's people are excited to find out he's coming because the music is something that they actually want to hear. Go figure. Um, and it's also like in today's era of wrestling, you really got to make sure that people are down to chant to your song and just go ooh or whatever the fuck. Like even if it doesn't fit, because I have no fucking clue why people chant the way they do during Seth Rollins' entrance. It doesn't fit.
Right.
And then they
Well,
just do it during the match, and it sounds random as fuck.
it's funny because I feel like AEW fans kind of started this really cool thing of singing along to Chris Jericho's Judas theme,
Ooh, we're
right?
finally getting here. I knew we'd end up here.
Sure. Well, I'm glad you're here. Welcome everybody to the actual point of the entire talk.
More Chris Jericho.
That's right. If we could find a way to tie Jericho into things, we will. And for good reason. One of these days, we're going to have a big fat debate on who the best of all time is. And I know one of us, if not both of us, will spend a hefty portion agreeing that Chris Jericho belongs heavily in that conversation at this point.
Yeah,
Um,
who knows? If we wait long enough, he'll drop. I feel like he's very recently starting to tarnish his legacy, in my opinion.
Yep, we agree. I think we've touched on this a tad that he's starting to dig himself a hole, and he should let himself take a step back for a while
Yeah.
and so we can remember what makes him so special. You can get overexposed, but anyway, the Judas thing happened, and I feel like WWE fans just picked somebody to counter that with, right? And Seth got to be that guy because Seth was publicly discussing
Mm.
at the time that he was never WWE's guy and he's never been the one to lead the company, despite how close to the top of the card he's been for a good
Despite being
15
Triple
years.
H's boy.
I shouldn't say 15 years. It's definitely like 10, but regardless. Yeah, despite being beloved by the authority, obviously.
But
Yeah,
having
Seth.
that sick WrestleMania moment.
Well, there's a couple. That WrestleMania belongs to Seth. Tiffany was reminding me of that evening, not for Seth winning the title with the Money in the Bank, which of course did, breed plenty of incredibly memorable moments. But the first match of the night was him and Orton. And of course, you might remember that match for the one where he goes to stomp Orton and Orton pops him up and hits the RKO with maybe the best RKO in his whole career, right? And
Yeah,
Seth is a
fun,
big thank you to that. I
fun.
remember
I was gonna say, fun fact: they didn't hit that in practice a time.
Oh, really? And
Yep,
then
they
pulled
never
it
hit
off.
that before the actual match, and according to, yeah, I mean, it could be all bullshit because they like to talk to interviewers, but he said that they never hit that in practice, and they were actually not going to do it for the match because they weren't confident.
Wow.
We
Well,
almost got robbed of that at WrestleMania,
and what an RKO.
and then it turned
Holy
out pretty
sh-
much perfect.
Oh, yeah. Like, if I don't know how you could have pulled that off better. Such a cool move. What a moment.
It's a shame
Let's.
Diamond Dallas Page did it 30 years earlier.
Oh yeah, I'd love to
Yeah.
see that clip. Who popped up for him?
Um, what was
I
it?
want to look that up. That's wild.
It's not literally the like a stomp pop up, but he had plenty of guys he would hoist up in the air and
Well,
do a
sure.
cutter
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. That's fine. We'll just move forward.
What
from
is
that.
it about the cutter where everybody just gets to like hit it out of nowhere or like do the handshake pull into it? Like there's just something about any type of cutter, whether it's a Stone Cold Stunner or a Triple H Diamond Cutter or whatever it is. I don't know. Did you know that Triple H's finisher was originally a cutter?
Oh, I didn't. As Hunter
Yeah.
Hearst Helmsley?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was actually it might have been it was in WCW when he was John Paul
Terrorize.
Levesque or whatever.
Oh, okay.
He was being tutored by William Regal and he used to do a cutter and Diamond Dallas Page asked him to cut it out.
No pun intended.
Yeah, he's
right?
like, "Hey brother, you're a little further down on the card than me being brand new." So
Right.
I don't even know what his finisher was at that time. I'm pretty sure it was something. Oh, it was an Indian Deathlock. You know that Indian Deathlock they claimed that Ric Flair taught him? That was his finisher in like the early 90s.
An underrated move too. I enjoy whenever he would dust that off years following, kind of like how Edge likes to dust off the educator or the education, my bad. These
I mean,
days
the presentation of it was always really good when he would bring it back and do like he would jump in all three directions, right? He'd like really just fucking lay out on that shit and like actually just break fall with the legs tied up. Like that shit was tight. And then do you know what the best part of that Indian Deathlock is?
go ahead.
In SmackDown Here Comes the Pain, you can waste 28 seconds with it while your tag team partner pins somebody.
I was literally about to explain that had the longest animation in all of those fucking games.
That was
Oh.
no shit, not a joke. I that's like when I was first like hanging out with other wrestling fans and stuff, and like watching pay-per-views and like somebody would slap that shit on by accident and start apologizing and legit the other dude would get up and like go get a snack or something.
Right. And
Like come back with a drink.
that was the worst move in the game up until Dolph Ziggler's handstand headlock, right?
Oh shit.
Or his 10-time elbow drop was also really fucking frustrating.
Yeah, I think I remember that too. They never looked as good, but that's why I always had a soft spot for the GameCube games instead of the PlayStation ones. Because the PlayStation ones were like, how can we get all the moves to look exactly how a guy does it on TV? But the GameCube games would like let you just interrupt anything at any time.
That was a fun aspect of it.
Like they were better games. Like they were better like if you were trying to actually like do gamesmanship stuff and you didn't care that punching a guy while doing a crippler crossface would cause them to like spaz out across the ring and land like both face down flat. Like it was fine.
Right. It was way more important that you could break up a finisher so casually, and keep them from winning the match with that. That's one of the things that were like one of the few major drawbacks from WWF No Mercy was that you couldn't reverse finishes, and the other one was that you couldn't break them up if somebody was going for them. And I'll never forget how, as time went on and they started bringing that into the better made PlayStation games, if you ask me,
Better looking.
certainly better looking.
They're always better looking.
More polished, yeah. But again, it's so easy for us to bleed into totally different ideas as we start to approach the midnight hour, and I'm literally half asleep on the microphone. So forgive us all for these tangents, but hopefully you're enjoying just
It's
some
called
of
a
these.
conversation, damn it. Everyone apologizes for tangents. No more. We're not doing that. We're not sorry that we're gonna talk about Here Comes the Pain, because it's fucking relevant. It's called a conversation. It's what this whole thing is about.
That's true. That's why people love podcasts, because they're just natural chats.
And because the wrestling video games were a great way to actually sit down and listen to every theme song. If you didn't want to buy the
you're
anthology.
so right. I spent way too many afternoons actually just going into the creative entrance mode and siphoning through the different songs and appreciating them for what they were.
See, that's
Like,
called a fucking transition. That's not a tangent.
amen. Well done. What are you transitioning us into then?
Talking about Creator Wrestler theme song talking stuff. I just did it.
Well, good job. Keep the momentum going.
I used to sit in the Creator Wrestlers to listen to all the themes to, like, you know, any wrestler I hadn't seen in a while, or a lot of times they'd be like outdated. So like you couldn't listen to the old theme, right? Like if someone changed their theme recently and you want to listen to like their singles theme, or, you know, a tag team broke up and you want to listen to the tag team theme. Like I remember after Evolution had kind of finally died out, we still had a game with like the Evolution theme song, and so we'd always like have the stable still put together on the game.
True. Yep. That's always cool that you can revive something that's not used anymore. Um,
That's what
I
I really wish the 2K games had. I feel like there's almost no excuse. Like Super Smash Brothers does this so well, and depending on which company that they're working with, because it's like 8 million different, you know, games all jammed into one, a lot of studios will be really cool and give them a fuckload of music. And so like when you download Solid Snake for the Smash Brothers DLC, you get like fucking 20 songs. You get like a full album of Metal Gear Solid music. And like the 2K games should have a catalog of all the music WWE actually has the rights to that you might have fucking heard on a show.
That'd be sick. Yeah, if they were like, oh, well, this one has some Red Hot Chili Peppers song, like Snow was a theme song for one of the WrestleManias like 10 years ago, and I love that fucking song. And
Oh, that's a ton of money. That's real
ooh,
licensing shit, but true.
speaking of 2K23 or 2K and Red Hot Chili Peppers, 2K23 is going to have Can't Stop by the Chili Peppers as one of the tracks, and I'm hoping beyond hope that you can make that your entrance theme, because I always loved the lead in and of course the pop off to Can't Stop.
Isn't
If
that
you
a
remember
really
that.
old Red Hot Chili Pepper song?
Yeah, it's like 2001. Sure.
That's kind of
Um,
wild, actually. I always thought that they picked like brand new stuff. Like,
I noticed that sports soundtracks or anything that is like a semblance of sports, there's a diversity. Sure, there's a lot of newer stuff, a lot of indie stuff, but then there's also a couple throwbacks for those who
well,
I mean, they just know their audience. They try to catch a little bit of everybody, I would say.
yeah, like for most media, it's always like help promote your new thing, like new song. Like they use pretty much contemporary music for all the pay per view official songs, right?
Generally, yeah, generally, but
Like I
you'd be
can't think of
surprised.
them using a pay per view song that was like more than maybe 2 years old, unless it was something really thematic for like SummerSlam.
Well, I mean, I just gave an example of how Snow was used maybe 10 years after the fact that it was made, if I'm being honest.
Apparently,
That's,
Red Hot Chili Peppers are just timeless.
well, they are to me. I'm a bit of a fan. They're like my second favorite band, if I'm being honest.
I'm a huge
We
fan of Can't Stop. I'm surprised they chose it as the main song for the game 20 years later.
One of the main ones, but yeah, it's true. I'm stoked to check it out. Oh, one song or one track, one theme that I did want to make sure we took a quick second to shit on real fast was,
Oh, okay.
did any theme make you change the channel faster than right to censors?
Yes.
Really?
Ew, Chavo. Dun, dun, dun. I'm done. I'm not even there by the dun, dun, dun.
That's funny.
Oh, JBL, the fucking bullhorn, ding, ding, ding. It's close enough to a
Yep.
siren. I'm grandfathering it into the siren category. I get 2 ding dings, channels changed.
I used to think I loved Dean Ambrose's theme where it's like right, like that thing.
It's good if you get to the ring in the first 30 seconds.
Right, and it's a terrible last track to listen to as you're leaving the arena because I know we were there for this one together. Please, I'm praying. We were both at the Money in the Bank where Dean Ambrose won the Money in the Bank and then cashed it in same night, right? It was the
Yeah.
night that all 3 Shield members was champion at some point.
I believe so. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We had to have been there together.
Yeah,
Don't
that
you
was the
remember
night
trying to
where
leave?
yeah, all
Go
3
ahead.
members held it because it was Seth originally, or no, it was Roman originally. Seth won, and then Dean cashed in on him. Right.
Right, exactly. That's right. I'll
Pretty
just never
cool
forget
moment.
us spending like 40 minutes trying to leave the place because it was so packed, and they were still playing Dean Ambrose's music, and it was still looping every 90 seconds. And fuck, I never want to hear that theme again now. Are there any themes in history that have really worn out their welcome for you? Like at first you enjoyed them, but then after a while was like, please, good God, get this away from this character.
um, I'd say they tend to grow on me way more often than I get tired of them. Like usually, if I'm tired of them, I'm just tired of the wrestler. Honestly, uh, what's the new? Actually, there's probably a new one now, and I don't know if you'd even know. Orange Cassidy used to have one that was kind of nice, and then they got him like a new licensed music song, and I
Right.
just wasn't a fan. I wish I could remember it.
The previous song.
Well, the one they changed it to, but I think he has a third one by now.
Yikes. It's been a while since I've seen good old Orange Cassidy, even though he's a big part of AEW right now.
Yeah, like
But
he's got
yeah,
this
it's that one song that's like it's really a lazy track. It's true.
like
But
there's one I think called Juicy that was like his original one, the one that's like it sounds like a slow mopey song or whatever. That one's fine, even though I don't like the character Orange Cassidy. Like it fits the character. But then now his song I think is Jane by Jefferson Starship.
that's it. That's the song that I think is like the one that you've heard on the radio quite a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like I'm not the biggest fan of Jefferson Starship. I guess doesn't seem great for the character either, and I've been tired of it immediately. Oh, for a while. So the one I was thinking of that was new is he got the Pixies "Where Is My Mind," which is one of my favorite songs, and I was really sad that they gave it to Orange Cassidy.
I'll have to listen to the themes,
It at
and I
least
think you're right. I've been
fits.
googling, and I see that there's like several songs, sure, that have been done by popular artists that Orange Cassidy has used over the years. So I'll refresh myself. I'll freshly squeeze that stuff for myself, and I'll come back with a better opinion for you on it. But I mean, I like licensed music every time, honestly. I if I were ever making my perfect entrance, I know exactly which artist and which song I would pick, and it's straight off their self-titled album. Do I get to drop it? I'm sure. Yeah, we got nothing else to do. It's Audio Slave is the artist, Chris Cornell, of Soundgarden. Audio Slave was the super band that he formed with Tom Morello of Rage Against the Machine. But we knew that already. I'm just hemming and hawing. The song that I enjoyed and would use for my own theme would be Cochise, as I think how it's pronounced, Cochise. I used to mispronounce it Cochise, I think, for the longest time, but that song's just so perfect for me, and the very slow build up into the beat dropping. You should definitely check it out, and I think you'll understand why I would use it. But always love that track. What about you? Would you use a licensed song, or would you just have a guitar riff?
I don't think I would use a licensed song. I've tried to do this before many different times where um people want you to pick a song for different purposes in life. Um and like, even just like assign a theme song to a character or something like that. And it's tough to get them to fit. Granted, a lot of those times the lyrics get in the way, and I used to butt heads with people a lot on like whether a theme song for characters should have lyrics for like other media, because I'm coming from a pro wrestling world where lyrics generally enhance the experience for a lot of people. I know I said at the beginning that like I am a big fan of the ones without lyrics, I don't think like it necessarily makes it better, right? And
Right.
so, and I think there was definitely a time in my life where I preferred lyrics because it did seem like this new thing, right? Like for a while in the 2000s, it was the kind of thing where we were like, man, I wonder who's going to get lyrics next. I wonder who's going to get an update, because like one of the biggest upgrades of all time is Our Lady Peace, and it's a real big shame that people can't talk about that song without having to go through the Chris Benoit discussion every fucking time. But that's
Right.
one of the absolute fucking slappiest slappy banger brothers fucking songs of all time.
Okay.
And like that shit's just 5 stars. So if I was gonna steal any licensed music, like I'd have to somehow in a perfect world separate myself from the history associated to it. If I could do that, I would pick Whatever by Our Lady Peace.
Fantastic. I was wondering, I had forgotten that they had taken that old Radicals theme, right?
Yeah.
And turned it into Chris Benoit's, anthem for the remainder of his life. Yeah, that was such a
Yeah.
cool theme. I
There's
like
nothing there's absolutely nothing wrong with that song. You can't find a flaw in it.
Damn, except that it's attached to Chris Benoit, which
That's not the song's fault.
it's not the song's
There's
fault.
nothing to do with the song.
It's actually, God, talk about another tangent, but it's it's hard, right? It's a hard thing. You want to be able to celebrate Chris Benoit in some way, and you have to imagine that it was not the man
But we don't
himself.
have to. We don't have to talk about it. That's what I'm saying. We don't have to get into that whole thing.
Okay,
That's what I'd
we
like. I'd
won't.
like to mention Our Lady Peace song, Whatever,
Right. That
without doing the Chris Benoit discussion.
Damn it, my bad. You're right. I literally fell into the trap. I'm just too tired to play
Yeah.
defense.
I'm
My
just
bad.
like, bro, I literally just said
I
this.
literally said, let's not
Yeah.
get hung up. You're right. Forgive me, but oh
Yeah.
well. It is what happens in conversation because I'm just sitting here trying to recall. Um,
Because it's natural. Because, like I said, I'd have to separate myself completely from everything else to do that. But God, dude, it's just so good.
so are you a Latino Heat or a Lie, Cheat, and Steal fan?
Oh, Latino Heat 100%. Oh, Lie, Cheat,
Well,
and Steal is kind of corny.
well, it's also encouraging the wrong things in the youth of today.
No,
Latino Heat
that's
was a
not the problem at all.
I did love
um,
Latino Heat. Yeah, Latino Heat. So
okay,
much
okay,
fun.
all right. We're gonna start just asking random questions. Then, all right. How do you feel about Rey Mysterio with his
Oh, 619
booyaka booyaka?
Booyaka, right?
Are you a booyaka guy?
Versus the how'd that go? You know what I'm talking about. 619 REY Mysterio. Here we go, right?
Yeah.
I love that track for the pop out of the ground, right? Like
Mm,
obviously that was so sick with the though he comes out the sky, REY. Like that's just dope with him coming out of the stage and him flying in the air. Loved it. As far as switching it over to Booyaka Booyaka, I've never been a huge fan of that track,
me
honestly.
neither. It's very rapido for me.
Right. I mean, yeah, it's the same kind of thing too. They both kind of transitioned into those songs at the same time. John Cena into his second theme and Ray into his second theme, Booyaka. I love it, POD. Like, don't get me wrong, POD is all over my iPod in different places. That specific song just doesn't quite do it
Wait,
for
is
me.
that POD that does that?
Yes, I thought
That's
you might have known that, but yep, that's POD.
actually kind of wild.
Yeah, they have one of my favorite songs growing up, Youth of the Nation.
Yeah, I'm definitely a Who's That. When I think of Rey Mysterio's entrance, I always think of Who's That jumping out the sky. And it has a weird place in my heart because it's like weirdly wrestling related, and it's one of the few hip hop wrestling themes around its era that wasn't like totally corny, but it's not good.
It just doesn't do it for me either. So I don't think we need to conflict onto why.
It's very church rap in a weird way. Like it's very like we can spell it out to make it fit the rhyme scheme, like
Hey, what do you think about the no music touch? Remember when I know Vladimir Kozlov was one character who tried to do that, but the one that stood out to me was Main Event R-Truth, who just did the truth will set you free, and then he walks out to silence.
huh.
Like, I remember that being really powerful for that version of the character. And as short-lived and unexplored Main Event R-Truth was, that was just a cool character touch to me. What do you think about those who choose not to come out to music?
I haven't seen too much of it. I didn't see that R-Truth run at the time. I like the idea of it just saying the truth shall set you free, and then because everyone knows him for the rap along kind of a thing.
Right.
There's a lot of time surprisingly in the 90s where guys didn't have music for either like a random event or they just didn't have it for a while. Like I want to say Raven for a small run just didn't have music in WCW. But
I loved his short-lived WWE theme song though, with the Raven cawing incessantly at the beginning.
Oh, that shit's
before
great.
some stupid grinding guitar riff would come in and ruin it all. I just like the
Caw,
rhythm.
caw. That shit's awesome.
For some silly reason, man, I did love that. And Rhinos too. I always want to put Rhino and Raven in the exact same conversation, but I always love the charging Rhino noise into the dun-dun-dun-dun.
Rhinos was great.
Dun-dun-dun-dun. Like another very simple guitar riff to give it some body. Go ahead.
Does Right to Censor count? They literally just had a siren. They didn't have music.
I mean, they're terrible. I hated that sound so much. And it was like, no matter how low you try to turn down your TV, it still somehow overrode your speakers and just killed your head. Like,
Yeah.
I hated everything about that whole concept, not only because it deleted the fun aspects of some of my favorite characters like Val Venus and Godfather, but of course it just screeches that shit out. And God, it was literally anti-viewership in my mind.
Yeah, there's also the record scratch Dolph Ziggler era. That's the one I remember. Where it would just, I'm here to show the world, and then like just nothing, and
then he would come out to nothing. Yeah, that's another.
And they could have really done amazing things with that run, but he's just there to make other people look good, I guess.
I would be entirely remiss to not at least mention that I love Bray Wyatt's themes, of course.
Mm-hmm.
His earlier one with the Eater of Worlds, the slower version, where it was one of the first examples I could think of a theme that didn't need to pop off at any point. And except for Rob Conway's terrible "Just Look at Me" song, if you remember that one, that was like this weird vaudevillian kind of like stupid, like dumb thing. I can't, whatever. But right. Bray's original one with the Eater of Worlds was cool, but when they redid it, with the hard rock interpretation for The Fiend, that took me to a whole new next level. Like, that was so freaking cool when they brought The
Mhm.
Fiend in for the first time, pumping that track with the awesome camera angles. And then it took me a minute to realize, oh my God, it's the same theme, just done like metal or hard rock or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Fucking loved that. And they've done, that same band has done, I think, all of Bray's themes, including the one he's doing now with the super cool build up with the piano. I that's one part of his presentation that they've always nailed beyond perfectly for me. But you're probably gonna shit on them now, right?
I don't have to.
Oh, that's nice. Okay,
I mean,
I
I could. Do
appreciate
you
that.
want me to?
I mean, it's just the Sam Tate way of life, but
I
hey,
I would much rather. I mean, I would much rather just.
bring home the show because we've actually meandered our way through 2 hours worth of conversation, essentially.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I was trying to think of a clever way to transfer. If you had to pick the top 3 theme songs of all time, because we've this is definitely a conversation we're gonna probably revisit sooner than we would plan to, because there's so much, dude. It's so easy. There's so many themes that we haven't even talked about that were just absolutely bangers. Billy Kidman's for one.
Oh shit,
You can
man.
run if
Great
you want
job.
to.
I was going to say, to me, a great theme song almost makes the wrestler cooler by default. And
Absolutely.
that song right there, Billy Kidman's um 2002, 2004 theme or whatever, when he was really at his peak, that was such a sick, cool track with yeah, yeah. And
Yeah, but
you
nothing
can
will
fucking run
ever
if you
beat.
want to. Keep running because you can't hide. And like, I
No,
friggin' love that song.
nothing will ever beat Fandango at WrestleMania.
Oh shit. Well,
Everyone just
fuck
dancing along.
Fandango. Ugh, what? Yeah, I mean, he not the one. Were they walking out of the arena singing that song because he beat Chris Jericho that night?
It's
Like
just a
that,
catchy thing that caught on that night. Like it's
but it
just
was the same night, right? I
yeah, it
feel
was
like
just
that it
things
wasn't
people
his debut night. It was years later that somebody decided that the crowd decided to do that.
was
Wasn't
it?
it? I feel like that had to be the case, but I
I
suppose I could
thought
be wrong.
I thought it was the when he well, it might not have been his debut night. Yeah, it might not have been when he beat Chris Jericho, but I mean, I'm pretty sure he was there when they did it.
Poor Chris Jericho, always willing to do what Vincent Kennedy McMahon wants him to do, but that was one of the biggest mistakes.
As long
Making
as he's the first or the last match.
Jericho
If he's not
fair.
going to be the first match, he won't do it.
You shouldn't. Yeah, don't
Mm,
do it. Let's see. Top 3 themes. Kidman's made the list because it made him so damn cool. Um, believe it or not, I had this weird love for Maven's theme song. Um, I just it
are
was
you
by
putting
a
this in
band.
your top 3?
I mean,
Are you putting Maven in your top 3? Probably
well,
need to know.
that seems impossible. That seems impossible.
Because I can't
But
even
I just
remember Maven's theme.
I think it's from Mercy Drive, the same band that's done most of Randy Orton's stuff. Which, by the way, I used to love "Burning My Light." Hey, nothing you would say, nothing's gonna
Yeah,
change
one of the
what you've
worst themes of
done
all time.
to me. Huh?
Actually, a bottom 10 theme.
You hate that one?
I hate that one. Doesn't fit the character. Not good by itself as a song. Not a good come to the ring song, especially for that character. Like, come on. There's just nothing Randy Orton about it, except for people thinking that Burning My Light is a particularly cocky thing, I guess, even though it's not really.
Hey, you're Burning My Light was the cocky one, and then they went on to do, I think the same band did the Viper songs, right? So,
Yeah.
um,
which is also.
I think it's cool when
the
a wrestler
Viper songs
is
are also so terrible.
Sorry, go ahead. One more time on that.
Oh, the Viper songs are also just super terrible. I
hear
hear voices in my head shit. That's
Yeah.
so bad, dude.
I mean, it is. If you read the lyrics, I hear voices in my head. They talk to me. They understand. They talk to me. Yikes. Good job. Just an ode to insanity. All right, final answer. Top 3 themes. Here they go. You ready? I'm gonna break your heart. Number 1, definitely the Hurt Heel version of Bray Wyatt's theme that he used for the Fiend. A1, one of
It's
my
pretty
absolute
good.
favorites. No way to avoid it. Number 2, absolutely is it going to be Air Raid Siren / Rollin' by Limp Bizkit, Undertaker 2001. Awesome shit. Totally awesome. Made that track, enhanced Undertaker. Good shit. And number 3, I know I said final answer and I'm already spacing. I do want to put Rob Zombie that Edge had, Never Gonna Stop Me. I actually
Never
thought that
gonna
was a
stop me up
great
there.
fucking choice for me. So yeah,
Wild.
those are the 3 I'll shoot from the hip with. Go ahead. Your
That's
turn. Pound for pound, the best 3.
that's pretty crazy. The best 3. Oh man, people are not gonna like mine because mine are like super wrestling answers and they're not really music answers.
Okay.
So for me, top 3 is definitely Break the Walls Down.
Yeah.
I already mentioned the Hardy Boys theme. I want to put that close. That's probably just nostalgia. So I'll table that one, but I'll be honest, I would really want to put that number 3 just because it was so good for its time. It was so good for that team and like just getting people amped up for those matches that they had that were, like people forget how groundbreaking a tag team cage match was even in the year 1998 or whatever. So
yeah.
Shane McMahon, Here Comes the Money.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good one too.
Like I actually, you know what? I'm gonna veto Shane McMahon because I have to put a different one at number 1. I'm gonna go break. Okay, it's so hard. I'm gonna actually go Break the Walls Down and then No Chance in Hell because No Chance in Hell is infinitely better than. Well, not infinitely, but it's way better than Here Comes the Money.
Sure. I mean, No Chance in Hell is perfect for Vince.
It's so good, bro.
For the corporate machine, anyway.
Yeah. And then I'm going Corporate Ministry theme song, the one everyone hates.
Oh, how does that go?
The faster, like the bell tolls, but then it's kind of faster with a little rock.
You mean
a little rock into it. And it's the theme I associate with the Acolytes.
Oh,
ironically, because you're a big APA song fan. It's the song I associate with before they were the Acolyte Protection Agency and were just the Acolyte.
Oh boy, I remember when
that's the video game music.
Exactly. And I was mad when they put Bradshaw and Farouk in and they were the Acolytes and had that track instead of my APA track. I was pretty pissed actually. Hey,
yeah,
honorable mention.
So my 2 honorable mentions though are definitely gonna be Hardy Boys and RVD's One of a Kind.
Oh yeah,
that's my top 5. I'll give you a top 5. I cheated.
I'm definitely adding Cult of Personality, and then the fact
Licensed
that we haven't
music enjoyer.
don't give a fuck. I like what I like, and when that hit, remember when we were there when that hit, and out came CM Punk after 10 years away from the business in AEW, like that was a certain version of Cloud9 I will never be able to replicate for myself because I was so excited for CM Punk's return on so many levels. Shit, oh dear, how that did not go how I wanted it to.
It's one of the few. Yeah, well, I am firmly on Punk's side on that BT dub. For anyone who's curious,
I wouldn't be surprised if there's so much more to that, and I think we've said that each time that topic's come up, but we don't need to trip over that pothole either.
That's true. I guess that's the bottom line too. I guess is worth mentioning is the only people are ever gonna know are the people who was there. It just seems weird that like of all the different versions I've heard, like nobody is actually really sticking up for the Elite. Like there's no version of it, even from the Elite's version, that sounds good for them. So like I don't know.
It's just a bad look for the whole company. But my last honorable mention is a theme that was only barely grazed over, that deserves a lot more love from us before we call it a night. And that is, of course, it's time to play the game.
Ooh, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan. That's not how time to play the game goes, but sure.
No, that's you're thinking my time. You're thinking of my time with the the early 2000s trips, but it's
No, I'm
the
not. That's just not how Motorhead's the game goes.
what are you talking about? It's time to play the game. Come on, no, it's totally like that's totally what it was. What are you talking about? How did it
I don't
go?
know, bro. You're off on some other shit.
It's
I
all
don't
about
know.
the game and how you play it. It's all about control, and if you can take it, that one, right?
I mean, that's vaguely how it goes. Yeah, I don't know if that's like the rhythm, but it's
Whatever. Triple H's is legit. Will always be legit, and you either love it or you love to hate it. That's for sure.
it's one of the best ever for sure.
But what do you all think, right? Which one of these various tracks gets stuck in your head for all the right reasons? What about for all the wrong reasons? What theme song made you change the channel faster than the right of censors did to me? You guys got to let us know, man. We love that you sit here and listen to us hem and haw, but we want to know how you feel. We want to know what we're missing. Throw it in the comments. Give us some engagement. Please, pretty please, and thank you.
Yeah, I think we're pretty good to wrap it up here. We kind of rambled on about one of the easiest topics to get into because it's such a cross section of so many different parts of wrestling and of media in general, but it's amazing how much we didn't talk about, I guess is really the thing to take away from this topic, right?
Well, I'm sitting here thinking of all the themes in my head that we did talk about. I'm pretty proud of the spread. I mean, I definitely could have spent 20 minutes talking about The Godfather, but we have already done that. And,
Ooh, Godfather's not a terrible one. It's pretty basic. See, Godfather and like Road Dogg and like the DX thing, like it's its own entrance, right? Like it's not really about the music, it's the guy talking on the microphone.
I love that about Road Dogs, actually. That makes him one of the most easily overlooked characters in wrestling history. He was very unique for being the guy to talk his way out to the ring. Not very many other folks have approached that,
He's
but
been
there's
pretty
a
hit or miss. There's some really cringy Road Dogg entrances, man. He always did that shit improv off the cuff. So massive respect, but yeah.
Yeah, not all of them could be winners.
Definitely
but then again,
misses.
On the opposite spectrum, like on the bad side, we didn't get to talk too much shit about like his tag team partner's theme song. I'm a man.
Yeah, we didn't even get to Billy and Chuck's music.
Yep.
Like,
good call.
You look so
good to me. Yeah, that was.
Yeah, you gotta finish that, huh?
That was tough to watch and listen to. Yeah, man, there are so many good ones, and you're right. We could probably revisit this and have a grand old time, but it'd be a lot easier to revisit if you all give us some freaking hate over it. Like, let us know what you disagree with, what you like. We're dying to get to know our
This man is literally begging for your engagement. If you listen this long, like,
you might as well.
Come on, help him out.
Warren doesn't get to eat in the comments, guys. Get it done. Let's get this going.
Warren doesn't get to eat breakfast until we get at least 2 comments on a video.
Well, at least I'd lose some weight for a change.
All right. I think we can wrap it up here. You got any special plugs? Are you gonna be here next week with us, Warren? I know you're moving. You've been pretty busy, bud.
Well, the reality is my goal is to never lose momentum on this, and my prayer is that I'll have a nice new corner in my next space to, at least get some decent sound quality into a recording. So my prayer is that we're here and we're doing this again without any sort of momentum being lost. I mean, it's a goal of mine to not skip any weeks on this. So make it worthwhile and give us a comment. Call me a bitch. Hurry up.
Call him a bitch in the comments. I love that. That's our send-off. Go down below, Tell me on a scale of 1 to 10, how big of a bitch do you think Warren is? And like the video, subscribe. We love you all. Peace. Mwah.
Mwah. Good night, guys.